Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio, where we celebrate every single day the amazing people across the great state of Mississippi who are working to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Listen, I want to tell my listeners and viewers on SuperTalk TV, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks for hanging in there with us. I had a big time computer problem, which actually we ended up having to trash that Mac that I'd had for many years. I don't demand a lot of it, but it's important that it run all the latest software. Skype made an update. It immediately made my laptop irrelevant, and we've had to shift around and buy some new stuff and whatever. But for a period of time, we were on the laptop, and then we got the new computer, and we've been working to get it going. I think we're moving in the right direction now. So thanks for hanging in there with us. And we have a processor, in fact, for the audio side of this show that is getting upgraded as well. So this sounds fine, but it's not up to radio qualities, and we're going to get that dealt with here pretty soon as well. So without any further ado, let's shift gears and move over to my friend Jeff Duncan, the columnist for NOLA.com and the Times Picayune. And first of all, just say good morning. How you doing, my friend?
I'm surviving, Ricky. Super Bowl weeks. We're burning the candle at both ends, put it that way.
Well, listen, man, you and I talked about this many times, but I kind of miss being there, to be honest with you. When I was CEO of Nolan Media Group, it was so much fun being there during the lead up to the Super Bowl, the parties, I got invited to all of them just about, but I went to several, including like GQ magazine's party, which was unbelievable. Of course, that was our parent company's party, and just a lot of fun, man. It's just the city, and then you add into it the terror attack on January 1, and all the work that's had to been done there, and the tightened security and all that. I mean, it's been no shortage of things to write about.
Yeah, I mean, it's been already a whirlwind, and we're Thursday right now. Well, we're recording on Thursday, but you're right. Parties, big events every night. The city's just electric right now. It's alive. I haven't seen it like this in a long time. I was at an event for the Manning family. The same time, Steve Gleason, my good friend, he was having their big event right down at the convention center, trying to get to all these things with the gridlock of traffic. It's just overwhelming, but it's also a great feeling right now. The city is just really shining, and great seeing so many people in the city as well. I mean, it's really kind of I think one of the great Super Bowls we're ever going to have here, the way things are shaping up.
I think so too. I tell you, you and I, we grew up in this world from traditional newspapers to digital capabilities, but the whole definition of mainstream, whatever you want to call that, media has changed dramatically. You think about the rise of podcasts and so many people who have a voice on X, or you name the platform, they have it, and they're all in town right now. If there's any relation to sports. And so many of them have extremely relevant voices, and the attention that the city is getting right now, really mostly incredibly positive, has been enormous. We probably have never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's what Jay Cicero, the head of the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, always says: is you can't possible to put a price tag on the publicity value that a Super Bowl brings to a city. We're seeing it right now. I mean, just constant praise. Look, the weather's great. We're getting lucky. I mean, it's just beautiful weather right now. So I think it's supposed to be 80 this weekend. That's remarkable even for New Orleans at this time of year. But the city right now, I've never seen anything quite like it. And we're still days away, from the big game.
Well, yeah, it's exciting. So much to see. So, like, somebody raised a point this morning, said, you can't walk from Bourbon Street to the Superdome, and 1,000 people enter the. This is on X. Enter the X, saying, I've done it 1,000 times, and so on and so on. Yeah, but people are learning the city, and it's just pretty cool.
Yeah, I was down on Bourbon yesterday morning, because I'm working on a story about Super Bowl in New Orleans and writing about the heartbeat of the city, Bourbon Street, and Man, I tell you, the security down there is unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, they have soldiers with M16s walking around. There were more military, Ricky, than there were people on Bourbon Street. And they have all the barricades up. I mean, if something's going to happen here, it's not going to happen because of lack of enforcement or planning. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Listen, you guys have done an incredible job. I'm saying the NOLA.com team, the news team, the sports team there. You guys have done a great job of covering this from every single angle. It's. I don't know how you get your head around it because there's so darn many angles. Even on the security front, even though you may have a point of reference, you've got state, federal, and local folks involved in this massive effort. And you're right. We probably have never seen more, dressed in their military, uniforms, more military presence than this Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think I was mentioning it to you on a previous program. I mean, this is a federal event. This is a huge global international event. So, this is far beyond local security measures. I mean, this has been planned for months at a very high level. I mean, we're talking about, the federal government involved with military. You can't even fly a drone in the city right now. No one can fly a drone. It's a no drone zone. So I know I understand people's concerns, but it wasn't going to be ever. And this was going to be planned before what happened January 1. It was going to be this way. I've covered a bunch of Super Bowls, so I never really had any concerns about the security of this event. It's going to be at an all-time high.
And then President Trump's going to be there too. So, I mean, if there's ever going to be a safe Super Bowl for him to go to, this is one. Yeah,
no, it's going to be Sunday. I might have to leave for the Dome right now to get to the game on Sunday because security is going to be crazy on Sunday.
Ooh, I can't even really imagine that. And then, of course, all the buzz around who the Saints' future coach is going to be. Do you think that's a fait accompli?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all signs point to Kellen Moore. I mean, they're going to meet again after the Super Bowl. The rules are the Saints can't really do anything. If you remember, this exact same scenario played out 2 years ago when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl in Arizona, and they wanted to hire Jonathan Gannon, the Arizona Cardinals, and they got slapped with a very harsh fine by the NFL for tampering with Jonathan Gannon. The Cardinals, I think they lost like a high draft pick and a lot of money. Saints don't want any part of that, so they're going to adhere to the rules, lay low, and meet with him after the Super Bowl. I imagine he's just going to stay in town, and they'll probably have a press conference a day or two after the Super Bowl. But unless he turns it down, I mean, it's his job to turn down, is the way it's been put to me.
Well, that's good news. That's really good news. I thought I lost you there for a second, but that might have been just a Wi-Fi freeze on my end. Yeah, again, you said this last week. He probably is going to be a good hire, but there's a lot of question marks about the kind of style he's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, we don't know a lot about Kellen Moore's, ambitions as a head coach. I mean, he's very well thought of in league circles. I'd say that. I mean, people I talk to have nothing but good things to say about him. But a lot of assistant coaches struggle with that transition. Dennis Allen being the latest, going from being a really good coordinator to being a head coach. It's just a different job. And so we're going to find out about Kellen Moore, who he wants to hire a defensive coordinator. What kind of defense do they want to run? A lot of things that we have to figure out once he gets this job. But I do think as far as, his reputation, it's really strong around the league. He's 36. He'll be the youngest head coach in the NFL. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, because this is going to be a big job, man. It's a big challenge ahead of him, reworking this roster, figuring out what's going to happen at the quarterback position. There's so many big questions to answer. I think you need someone young with energy and enthusiasm to tackle this job, much like the way when Sean Payton came in here. He had a lot of energy. It was a big job. You need somebody with that, I think, makeup to tackle this thing.
Jaguars hired 27-year-old offensive coordinator, and when they described why they did it, was all the reasons you just named.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is gonna be a big job, man. He's gonna need some security. I think he's gonna need a long runway, which I'm sure Mickey Loomis and Gail Benson will give him. I think these are the things they probably need to hash out in the days ahead. Is exactly what they're going to do at quarterback, and if he does move on from Derek Carr, give me some years on this contract because this is not going to be easy. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So let's give me some security in that. Those are the big picture questions need to be answered the next day or two.
Okay. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation with Jeff Duncan. I want to ask him about this really important story that has come up about the Saints marketing side of the organization and their involvement in the Catholic diocese as they were undergoing some very significant issues. And we'll come back on the other side and see if there's a long-term damage from that. We'll see after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We're visiting with Jeff Duncan. So much swirling in New Orleans, so many big stories. One of the stories is our former colleagues, Hammer and Vargas at WWL. Really studied all the emails between the Archdiocese and the Saints organization. Was it new to us that they had some involvement in maybe coaching them along the way, providing some feedback? They sort of downplayed their involvement in that scandal. But the reality now is that they seem to be a lot more involved than they wanted people to know. Do you think there's going to be a lasting effect of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Getting asked that a lot. There wasn't a whole lot of new news in that. I mean, this is the same story that Ramon had written, 6 years ago, I think it was. I think the difference was now everybody got copies of the emails as opposed to someone telling them what was in the emails. So there was verified proof of these emails. But I definitely think it's a bad look for the New Orleans Saints. It was a bad look back then, and it's a bad look now. But to me, Ricky, it's more of a classic kind of New Orleans story. This is a big, small town, and we know Gail Benson's, ties to the Catholic Church here. She's a devout Catholic, and she's very close to Archbishop Amon. I mean, as close as you can be. So the intertwiningness of this story is one of these kind of only in New Orleans stories where it doesn't surprise any of us that's over here because we've seen it for years. But I think in the outside world, if you're the NFL, the optics of it are not good when you have an NFL team basically, counseling and providing PR advice on something like this. But it's not surprising because we know how this city operates. Everybody's so close here. This is a relationship city. And so it's not surprising that this would have happened, but definitely something that the Saints need to extract themselves from because right now it's a bad look.
In reading the story, and you're right, man, I do know extraordinarily well what you're talking about. It's a very, very small, big city. And, Jim Amos and I had the opportunity to go sit down with Archbishop Amos along the way, along the way. And, it was clear that he had very close relationships with Miss Benson. It was just, no one denied that. And at the time, obviously, Tom Benson. I mean, that's how they met, right? I mean, they were introduced by the Archbishop. I think if in those emails there was anything that said deny or, anything like that, but it was, again, I'm not trying to justify anything. It's not a good look for sure, but it was simply just trying to help them think about how to present themselves to the public. And it's probably something the Saints shouldn't have been involved in because of the nature of the accusations.
Yeah, I'm sure Roger Goodell wasn't happy to have to be answering questions about that at his press conference on Monday. And I visited with Roger Goodell Tuesday night for a little while. And, he was raving over the city, raving over the Superdome renovation, just about everything that going on. So it didn't affect him too much, but still, he doesn't want to have to answer questions like that at an event like this.
So it's very interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, Can you say, can we say, maybe outside of global soccer, or global football, that the NFL is probably the most successful sports franchise in the world?
Oh, no question about it. And we're seeing it play out here this week. The international media that's here, Ricky. I was down at the media center yesterday and spent some time on Radio Row, and it's so much bigger than it was even 5 years ago. And a lot of that is the international media growth. There's every country you can think of represented here. You mentioned podcasts, but it's not just podcasts. It's radio, television. I think there's 6,000 credentialed media. Just 20 years ago, that was half that number, credentialed media. So this sport has grown so much under Roger Goodell. I mean, that's going to be his legacy, is just how much he's grown the media rights. I mean, the streaming companies now that are carrying the games. It's made everyone in the business, grossly rich. That's why he makes $60 million a year, and he earns it because this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
So the Saints were originally purchased for what, $70 million? Do I remember that?
Something
number
like
right?
that, yeah.
Yeah. What is it worth today?
And I think even, it's multiple billions. Probably 5 billion, I would say, somewhere around there, and it keeps going up. And look, the guy that a lot of people think might be the next owner of the Saints, Todd Graves, he was at this event I was at last night. He's Raising Cane's founder and the richest person in the state. And, there's only so many people now that can own an NFL team. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of money, and you have to have that money in cash. It can't be something it has to be money that you have available to you, liquid, to be able to buy an NFL team. So we'll see.
Well, I've heard his name mentioned more than once. Does he bring the swagger and the gravitas and all of that is required in terms of the NFL's approval? He brings all of that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah, I mean, he's a big time donor for LSU athletics. He's one of the richest people in the country, and he's into sports, and he's very, very much a charitable guy too. Very much involved in the community. So he would be an ideal owner if he does want to do it. I mean, I've heard from people saying he doesn't want to be connected with that. He respects Gail Benson, doesn't want any link to that. But so you'll never hear him publicly talk about it.
Interesting. That's so interesting. Listen, there's so many sub stories to this week. Kind of where are you sniffing out these days?
Oh my gosh, I'm just so busy. I'm looking forward tomorrow to going down to the Saints house. The Saints have a event house down in the French Quarter, and I'm going to go down there. There's a big parade Saturday morning, right? I really advise everyone, recommend watching this Super Bowl parade. Everybody's going to have floats. The team's going to have floats. They're going to throw NFL themed, Super Bowl themed throws, but they're also going to be a Saints float with all former players. I think Drew Brees will be on it. I don't know how many players are going to be on this float, but they're all having a little reunion. If you know this, we're recording this on Thursday, but Friday it's going to be airing. It's the 15-year anniversary, Ricky, of the Super Bowl championship, and they're going to have a little reunion with a lot of the players that are in town for this Super Bowl. So I'm going to go spend some time with those players and coaches because I think it'll be a special event.
That is so cool to see it. But the Super Bowl does that. It brings people together like that. Everyone has a voice somewhere in some of these parties. It's pretty incredible thing. So you also keep your ear close to the ground, don't you?
Oh yeah, you hear all kinds of stuff. Hey, look, at the Gleason event the other night, Sean Payton spoke to the crowd, and he said, "I consider this home, and I'll be back here one day." And I think I've told you that. I mean, Sean Payton's going to be back here. He's going to be back here, and I think he's going to be back here with the New Orleans Saints. It's just he's got to take care of business with the Denver Broncos. He's very loyal to that family that brought him on as owners. Brought him on as head coach, and he's going to take care of business there. But he'll finish his career here with the Saints.
Won't that be interesting? You mentioned Steve's event a couple of times, but how is Steve doing? I know he's had some significant challenges. He's written about his eye issues. What's the status of Steve?
He's still going strong. I mean, this event was amazing All kinds of celebrities, former teammates were there. Bill Belichick was there. He had a table. It was an amazing event. He's indomitable is the way Drew Brees described him. He just keeps going, and I think he's an inspiration for everyone. I talked to Thomas Morstead yesterday about him, and he said he's never seen anything like it. He's a force of nature is the best way to describe Steve. So yeah, he has some challenges, but the eyes are just the latest challenge that he's overcoming. He just looks at it like this is something else I've lost. Now I've got to move on. I have to accept it and move on. That's what he's done.
Well, Jeff, how is he communicating?
He communicates. He can still use his eyes to communicate, but he's really kind of transitioned more to using what they call the Becker system, which is his eye movement instead of using his computer. But he can still use his computer. He just can't use it as much. But if all of his care team, Michelle, everybody, they communicate with him using these eye movements. It's called the Becker system.
Wow. I mean, you wrote the book, but what an incredible story of resilience in the face of unimaginable challenges. I mean, it changed your life forever, didn't it?
Yeah, I'll never work on a project with this kind of impact. I feel very grateful and honored to just be a part of it. And look, we've had a lot of great reaction this week to the book. I mean, it's had another spike in sales, and so we're really honored to be a part of this great story, telling that story for everybody. A lot of life lessons there, Ricky.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Listen, thank you, my friend. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
All right, buddy.
Okay. Well, hey, when we come back, JT Mitchell from SuperTalk Mississippi News will be joining us. We'll see you after this.